Welcome back. Now that you have created your skinny brick, let's move on to part 2 of the assignment where we create our configurations and derive parts. This video is going to be about your configurations, and then there will be one posted as well for the derived parts, just because we'll be creating one part file versus 3. So once again, we are working on Milestone 2. This is for the Lego Creator 5761, the off-roader. If you are creating a different model, look for those videos as well. So for part 2, it says students must create part numbers 302124, 302026, 4211094, 4211001, and a 2x1 flat brick using configurations. So to begin, step 10, we're going to be using our skinny brick to create 5 configurations within our part file. We want to use the Lego part numbers for the configuration names, and then you can name flat brick for the 2x1 part, because that will be your parent part in the future derived parts we build. So as you can see here, I have the skinny brick pulled up that we designed in the last video. I'm going to come over on our feature tree manager and come to the configuration manager. It's just the third tab over. You'll see that we right now only have the default. That's the skinny brick, the first part we built. So by clicking on the main title of skinny brick, I'm going to build create configurations. So you want to right click and then we'll add configuration. Make sure you're doing it under this part file so it comes up under the main configuration manager tree. If you create it under your defaulted brick, you can still add derived configurations, but then you'll have to double click in this to see them all. So it's just a little easier to view them if they're all in the main configuration manager. So come to the title, go ahead and right click and click add configuration. So right now I'm just going to do the configuration name. So I'm going to start with 302124. Now this part is a yellow Lego brick and it's a 3x2. So for the description, I'm just going to put yellow and then 3x2. Once you have that, just go ahead and hit OK. You'll see that part number pop up now. Now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to do this for all my configurations. So once again, right click, click add configuration. Now let's do the part number 302026. This part is a black 4x2. Then hit OK. Now let's keep adding our configurations. So this part number is 4211094. This is going to be a gray 2x2. Remember, with the 2x2 we'll have to suppress some of the features from our underneath extrudes. Same with this part, which is 4211001. This is a gray 4x1. That also will need the underneath features suppressed. So now I have my 4 actual Lego parts. I still need to add one more configuration, and this one we can just call flat brick. For its description, I'm going to put parent file 2x1. Then hit OK. So you can see that I have the default. The numbers go in numerical order, but then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, all 4 of my Lego pieces plus the flat brick. So as of right now, any of them I click, they're all going to look like my defaulted skinny brick. So since we're already in our configuration manager tab, go down to where you can see display states. Right now it says they're linked, so I want to right click on this default display state and go to properties. Now you need to make sure that your advanced options right here is checked. Link display states to configurations. If this box is not checked, you're not going to be able to change your global variables and have them save for each of your configuration numbers or the colors individually. So if you get confused or your parts aren't staying the colors you want or their global variables are changing for each part, make sure you go back in and double check that your link display state configuration is checked and hit OK. You can also see the different configurations. So let's start with our first part. So 302124. So this is a yellow 3x2. So I'm going to click on it. So now you can see it's selected instead of my default. I'm going to go back over to my feature manager design tree, and I'm going to start by changing my equations. So my material is still plastic. The equations, remember, right click and go to manage equations. So this part is a 3x2. So I'm only changing the length. So once I change it to 3, you can see now that we have different configurations, that this configuration tab has now popped up. Go ahead and select that down arrow, and you want to specify this configuration. Make sure you're under the right part number here, because you can also change it all up here. I'm going to do these one by one, so we'll just do them as we go so you guys can keep up. So we have 3x2, it specified this configuration. We need to make sure the 2 is for this configuration as well, and then go ahead and hit OK. So you can see it's now updated our skinny brick to be the 3x2. Now we need to change the color. So click anywhere on your brick, come up to this appearance color wheel. I want to change the whole part, so I'm going to select right here, and this one is yellow. Then I'm going to just hit OK. But first, choose the yellow you want, and then make sure on your display states linked that it says this display state. We don't want to do all of our display states, so we want only this display state. Then hit OK. So now you can go back over to your configuration manager, and we'll just double click on the default. If for some reason it doesn't go back to the original skinny brick, come up and hit your rebuild, because sometimes SolidWorks lags. So if I hit the rebuild icon, which looks like the red and green stoplight, it brings me back to that original skinny brick. Then go to the part we just did, and you can see that it will update. So now let's move on to 302026. Go back over in your feature tree design manager. We're going to change our equations, so manage equations, and this is a 4x2. So go ahead and we'll change that to a 4. Make sure it's still for this configuration. Same with your 2. You're using the right number on the top, and hit OK. Now it's updated to 4x2. This one is black, so I'm going to select it again, choose my color wheel for appearances, select the whole skinny brick, and I'm going to choose to make it, instead of black, this more darker gray black, just so you can still see the knobs and the different features. Remember to scroll down, make sure this display state is the only thing highlighted, and hit OK. Now I am going to change the way that you can save this, so you can either resave it as your skinny brick, since you can turn it in as one part file. You can resave it with a different title like your Milestone2. I am going to just keep it skinny brick because you're going to turn in this whole part file, so you'll have your original skinny brick plus all of these parts. So one part file instead of having 6 different parts. So go ahead and make sure you're saving as you go. So now let's go to our 2x2. So that is the 4211094. Go over, let's manage our equations. So this is going to be a 2x2. Now things are going to get a little tricky with our design. So once again, select 2, make sure it's this configuration only, same with this bottom 2, and hit OK. So you'll see as soon as we change this to 2x2 that now we have an error coming up for our pattern. That is because we don't have a pattern. Since we only have the one annulus we built, it doesn't need to be patterned since we only have a 2x2. So for this, you're going to click on your pattern in your feature tree manager, come up to this icon where it's like two boxes and an arrow pointing down. It says suppress, and click that. You can suppress the different features, especially when you are not using them, and it will only suppress it in this part file number. Then I'm going to make sure I save. So now that we have no more errors, I'm going to go ahead and change the color. This one is a gray, so I'm going to do a lighter gray. Make sure it's only in this display state and hit OK. Once again, my material is still the same. So that's something I'm not having to change every time. Okay, so now we have our 4211001 left. This is our 4x1. So go to your equations, manage them. We're going to change it to 4. Make sure it's this configuration. Change this bottom width to 1. This configuration as well. And then hit OK. You'll see that's going to have a sketch warning. Just continue. Now the issue is we're having our boss extrudes come up halfway in our part because we're so narrow and it's being patterned. If you look at your 4x1 brick, you'll see that there are only 3 little knobs coming underneath instead of the concentric annulus we built before. So for this, I'm going to suppress this pattern. So remember, left click, click suppress. We still need to suppress our first annulus created. So on this box extrude, I'm going to click it and click suppress as well. Now if you still have a warning error, that's because you have suppressed the feature but not the sketch. So you can see that by clicking the arrow over, which will drop down and show you the sketch that you use for that feature. So you need to suppress it as well. So once they're both suppressed, then we don't have any more of those warning errors. Now, for our 4x1, we're going to need to draw the 3 underneath circles. So I want you to go ahead, click this base, the underneath face, and bring it normal too. So you're drawing from a perpendicular view. Go to your sketch tab and select your circle tab. I'm just going to place 2 concentric circles. These are much smaller. Once you have the first one placed, go ahead and let's smart dimension that outer circle to be 2. And I'm going to zoom in and dimension the inner circle to be 1. We do not want it to be a driven dimension. So let's go ahead and cancel that. This is 1. And we want that outside diameter to be 2. So if you have an error like I just did, just make sure you selected the right edges for your circles. Then we need to be able to place them. So we want them to be center from both of these circles because it aligns right in the middle of each of these. So let's go ahead and dimension from this inner circle. I'm going to just dimension it from this circle on the side. This is going to be 4. Hit OK. So now we have our horizontal reference. So let's get our top reference or vertical. I'm going to select this edge and the center point. This is going to be 2.5. Make sure your dimensions are showing up, just so that will become fully defined. Now once we have that dimensioned, go ahead and hit OK. Then we're going to go to our Features tab and hit that Extruded Base. We're going to change the direction to up to surface and select the bottom face like we did before. For the selected contours, zoom in and make sure that you're only going to be selecting the material of your annulus so that center is hollow, and hit OK. Now we need to create a linear pattern since we have multiple of these. So you can go up on your Features tab and select Linear Pattern. The direction is going to be this direction for our top. Our instances are going to be 3. Direction 2 will be this direction. Or you can actually leave direction 2 since we won't be changing this part as void. Then our features or faces we want to select is just our boss extrude we created. Now you can see we have 3 of them. They're lined up perfectly, and hit OK. So there's our 4x1. All we have left is to make it gray. So go ahead and select it. Change its appearance by changing the whole color of the brick. We will make it gray. Make sure it's this display state only, and hit OK. Go back to your configuration manager, and let's finish up with our flat brick before we test that everything has worked. So now we want to make sure that this error is fixed and not suppressed. So first we're going to go up to our equations, manage equations, change this to be a 2x1. Make sure it's this configuration again, and hit OK. So now we have a 2x1. Remember to suppress the linear pattern, to suppress that boss extrude underneath because we don't need it, and then to suppress the sketch as well so you have no errors. Now this boss extrude we can still use since we only need one and it's from the 4x1 we just created, but we don't need to use the pattern. And now this parent brick, it says on step 14 should be gray. So go ahead and select it, change its appearance, and select gray, and hit OK. So now we have all our parts. Go ahead and hit File and Save, and go back to your configuration tree. So we've used all our configurations. We've created 5 configurations plus our defaulted skinny brick. We've made sure to suppress all the right features, so let's see if it actually worked. I'm going to change the display state so we're looking at an isometric view. Let's start from the top. Go ahead and double click the roller of your mouse. So this should be a 4x2 black. Great. This one should be a yellow 3x2. Make sure you click that rebuild icon. It's back to being a 3x2. This should be a gray 2x2. This should be a gray 4x1. And this should be a gray 2x1. Make sure none of your errors or warnings appear. As you can see, nothing went off telling us anything was wrong with any of our features. Everything is still there. You can double check your first beginning parts, make sure all the features are correct, double check your default, hit that rebuild if it doesn't go back to its original size. See that all your features are there, no warnings or errors. So we have successfully taken our skinny brick file and created multiple configurations for our Milestone2. Stay tuned to see a video on creating your derived parts using parent files from this configuration. That is the reason we created the flat brick, because it's going to be our parent file we use for those derived parts.